Welcome to episode 36 of the Arctic Crafts podcast. My name is Bente and I'm coming to you from Vesterålen, northern Norway, where I live with my husband and 3 cats. You can find me on Instagram as Arctic Crafts, on Facebook and Etsy as Arctic Crafts by Bente, and on Ravelry as Arctic Crafts 65. I also have a group on Ravelry for this podcast. Just search for Arctic Crafts in the groups tab and I'll pop up. And I have a Ko-fi page. It's because sending out prizes for knit-alongs and giveaways is quite expensive. So I put up this Ko-fi page so that if you like this podcast, you can buy me a cup of coffee. And that goes towards the postage for shipping out prices and stuff like that. And maybe buying better equipment for the podcast. Today is an overcast day, so it's perfect for podcasting. We've had really nice weather for a long time, so it's actually quite nice having a day like this. It's actually raining a bit, and you wouldn't think that we've had lots of sun when you look at me, but I'm actually kind of a redhead. Can't tell, but I freckle and burn easily. So if I go outside, it's SPF 50 for me. Still have my youngest son here, and both because my husband and my youngest son is in the room with me, and because I haven't got a lot of stuff to show you, I'm pretty sure this won't be a long episode. I will put some footage at the end. I stopped vlogging because we haven't done a lot of exciting things, and I'm back at the normal schedule. I will podcast today and then Friday in 2 weeks, and I also have a shop update on Sunday, and I will have a new shop update Sunday in 2 weeks. So I'm back to the normal schedule. The only thing we're going to do that's a bit exciting is we're going back to Tromsø, because my youngest son also wanted a trip to Tromsø, but I already vlogged from a trip to Tromsø this summer, so I'm not sure I'm going to vlog from that trip. But I'm going to add some footage at the end of some of the things we have been doing. One thing I want to do at the start of this podcast episode is I want to say a big thank you to all of you that keep buying my yarn, even though the international mail service is kind of crazy these days. It really means a lot that you're patient with me and that you realize that it's out of my hands as soon as the yarn leaves me. Who knows when it gets there, but it will get there. It will just take a lot longer than usual. But again, thank you for supporting me and other indie makers, even though it takes longer than usual to get to you. And done with that, we can start talking about knitting. I've been monogamous the last 2 weeks. I have only knitted on 2 projects, and one of them is an FO. You remember the Don't Panic that I was going to knit with the wool bonbon? Well, it's finished, and it's really beautiful, even if I do say so myself. The pattern is by Teasdale, and sorry about the pause in the footage, but my computer suddenly told me that the recording had stopped, and I'm not sure why. I just did an update on my Mac, so who knows what happened. But I was showing you my FO, the Don't Panic shawl by Teasdale, and I really love this shawl. And the yarn I used is from Wool Bonbon in Germany, and it's a special construction. It's a 3-ply, and every now and then they just snip one of the colors and replace it with a darker color, and that's what makes the gradient. I have a tiny bit of yarn left, but at the end we have loads and loads of stitches, and I was afraid that I wouldn't have enough. So this is how big it got. It could have been bigger if I went up a needle size, but I liked the fabric I was getting, and this is knit on a 3mm. I think the pattern says 3.5, but I used the 3. And I'm a loose knitter, so the lace wouldn't look as good if I used a bigger needle. So this is the Don't Panic by Teasdale. It's supposed to have beads, but I didn't use any beads, both because I really wanted to knit it and I don't have any beads, and I'm not sure if I would like it with beads. I want to try knitting with beads, but I'm not sure what pattern to do. I think I'm going to do something small with not a lot of beads, just to learn how to do it. That's my only FO. And the other thing I have been knitting on, I'm sure you remember that I got a sweater quantity of hedgehog fibers as an anniversary present from my husband, and I am knitting the Boxy because I wanted to knit something that really did the yarn justice. And the yarn is Deep End by Hedgehog Fibers, and the colorway is Deep End, and this is their sock yarn. I'm not sure I would want to knit socks with it, by the way, because it's only 10% nylon. So if I knit socks with this, it's pretty socks, not for wearing constantly. So I prefer to use this yarn for garments and shawls. And here's where I am. I'm of course in the middle of a row. True to form, I'm in the middle of a row. But I've finished, let's see, this is chaotic. I finished the front and I'm working on the back panel. And as you can tell, this is a Boxy because this is the body. So it's a really big knit, and the reason why it's gone so quickly is because I've had this as my car knitting and hotel knitting this summer, and that's the only thing I've been knitting on, apart from one more thing. I showed you the yarn I bought from Faking Sanity in Canada, the Mineville wool project, and I put it in my stash, but I couldn't stop thinking about it because I love the colors so much. So here it's caked up, and the cake is a bit messy because I started knitting. And I'm just knitting a pair of vanilla socks. And as you can see, I was right in thinking that it was going to spiral. And it's, I really love this. The colors are a bit more bright than it looks on camera. I'll see what I can do in editing. I probably can adjust the colors a bit, but these are for me. And typically when a yarn is as busy as this, I prefer knitting vanilla socks, because if I tried to knit, I wanted to try something else, so I started knitting the Hermione's Everyday Socks, but the pattern didn't show properly, and I kind of thought that it ruined the spiraling effect a bit. So vanilla it is, and that will probably come with me when we go to Tromsø in a week, because hopefully that Boxy will be done in a week. I'm almost finished with the back panel, and the sleeves are really short on the Boxy, and they're not big. They're supposed to be fitted. So I suppose that sweater will be done. So I'm hoping that the weather will be like this when we go to Tromsø, because then I can actually wear my Boxy when we go there. And I have some dream knitting that I'm thinking about casting on, but I want to finish the Boxy first. I told you about the Gaudi sweater that I'm knitting with the yarn I bought the last time we went to Tromsø. So I want to knit that, but I'm not sure I want to cast that on immediately, because there's a shawl that I bought from Paper Daisy Creations that I think it was called Bloomington Morning. I'm going to check that and put it down here if I'm remembering wrongly, but I really love that shawl, and it's a 2-skein shawl, so I can go stash diving. So I might, because it's not too difficult, I don't have to pay attention to the pattern all the time, I might have that as my car knitting when we go to Tromsø on Thursday. And as I was saying, I might not record anything on that trip, because I already vlogged from Tromsø this summer. I'm just checking my show notes to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. And I also wanted to tell you about a podcast you should check out, because 2 of my friends in Canada, Liz and Sue, have started podcasting together via Zoom. They used to have a podcast together a long time ago, but Liz moved away and they haven't been able to do it together. But then they decided they wanted to start again, but using Zoom. And the name of their podcast is Distant Stitches. They only did 1 episode, but they're really good at it. They have done it before. So I'm putting a link to their podcast down below. And because they only did 1 episode, you can stay with them from the start. And as you can see behind me, I've done a tiny bit of dyeing. So I'm doing a shop update on Sunday, as usual, on 8 p.m. Central European time. And the sound you're hearing is my son's cell phone. He just has an alarm on. And I'm not stopping the tape just for that. I'm going to, here I am calling it a tape. You can tell I'm a kid of the 80s. This is not a tape, it's a file. So I'm an 80s kid. And as I was saying, I've done a tiny bit of dyeing, not a lot, but I've done some dyeing. And it's going into the shop on Sunday, 8 p.m. Central European summertime. And what I have been dyeing some semi-solids on single ply, because I was thinking single ply is often used for shawls, and when you knit a shawl, it's always nice to have 1 semi-solid or tonal in your shawl. And the colors I've dyed up in singles is Brickyard and Mr. Blue Sky, Grenadine. I love this red, it's a really deep red. And Moody Mauve. And I also have a new color. It's this green. Doesn't read properly on camera, but it's a grassy green, and it's an accident. I was going to dye up some guacamole on singles and I did the mix wrong, but I love the color, so it's a new color in my shop, and it's called Peat Moss because it's the exact same color green as moss that's really common here. So peat moss it is. And I've dyed up some Midnight Sun on Corriedale. It was a custom order, and I dyed 1 skein extra to have in the shop. And the thing with Corriedale is that the colors blend really nicely because it's a non-superwash, but that also means that the colors aren't that intense on Corriedale, but it makes for a really nice yarn. And Corriedale is amazing for socks. And I dyed up some Teasdale. I've dyed up some Mineville on Teasdale, named after the mountain that I keep nagging about and keep posting all over Instagram all the time, because I can see it out my kitchen window, and I just thought that it needed its own colorway, so this is called Mineville. And I've dyed up some vintage rose on Teasdale. The Teasdale and the Corriedale is really popular as a sock yarn, because not everybody wants merino. Some of you want, and I was going to say proper wool, merino is also a proper wool, but a more sheepy wool. And the Corriedale is, as you can tell, it has a bit of a halo, and that's because it's a non-superwash, so whenever you dye a Corriedale, it tends to get a bit of a halo. And that's what's going into the shop on Sunday. It's not a lot, but it is what it is. I have my son here. We're kind of in holiday mode. I of course send out orders all the time, because I'm at home. I have my inventory here, so not a problem sending out yarn when I get an order. And that's it. As I was saying, some footage at the end here, and I'll see you again in 2 weeks, and then I'll have a new shop update Sunday in 2 weeks.